This week, just wanted to say a couple words about Coach Bobby Bowden. Obviously, all of our thoughts and prayers are with his family and all of his former players and people that he influenced. Coach Bowden is very special to myself and to my family. There's no doubt when Coach Bowden hired my dad as a graduate assistant all the way back in 1983. My dad was coaching high school ball down in Wauchula, and hired him up there to be a GA in 1983. And that completely changed my life and my family's life from that point on. And I was 3 years old whenever we moved to Tallahassee, and we were there for 10 years. So, really my early childhood, I've got just an unbelievable amount of memories there at Florida State. And just really watching Coach Bowden interact with his players, and really, when you're around Coach Bowden, he made you feel like family. And it didn't matter if you'd just been around him for a week. He made it feel like you've known him your whole life. He just had that spirit to him. And people say, well, how did Coach Bowden impact you? And obviously, there's some direct ways from me watching him and observing him and wanting to be a coach and emulate him, but also, I think, my dad was impacted tremendously from working daily with him for 10 years. And so when I think about the kind of father that I've been very fortunate to have, and the kind of a husband that my dad is, an example that my dad has been for me and my brother, I think a lot of that probably goes to the influence that he had as a young coach working for Coach Bobby Bowden. So definitely a tough week, and I spent Sunday night in the meeting really showing our players a little tribute video and talking about Coach Bowden and the influence that he had on me as a young person, and what really made him special. And really, what we talk about, everybody wants to talk about football family and all these type of things. And I think Florida State was one of those first great examples that I can remember of really doing just that. And probably some time that I cherish. 2.5 years ago, January of 2019, I got to spend the day with Coach Bowden in Mobile. Hunter Renfro, who I was coaching at the time at Clemson, he won the Bobby Bowden Award, which went to one of the top college football players that also did a great job of displaying his spiritual life and leadership. And so Hunter Renfro won the award, and so we had a ceremony there for Hunter, and then we got to go to a country club and have lunch, and I literally got to spend the entire afternoon with Coach Bowden, and it was pretty special for me because it was kind of the first time, since really I got to go shake his hand before some games or something whenever I was at Clemson. He was at Florida State, but outside of that, it was really the first time. Here it is 25 years later, and I get a chance to really go thank him and tell him, how he influenced me. And I think in my family, and I think the cool thing about that is there's a lot of people. You see a lot of stories, a lot of people, and I know this Saturday, my dad and I will be up in Tallahassee for the funeral services, and everybody, obviously Coach Bowden was a tremendous coach, and his records and accolades and whatever it was, 14 years in a row, top 5 finish, it's just incredible, and second winningest coach of all time. But what everybody's talking about this week is the impact that he had on their life. And I think for me, still hopefully looking at myself as a young coach and just getting an opportunity to be a head coach, I hope that I can have just half the impact on my players that Coach Bowden had on his through the years. So our thoughts and prayers are with his entire family, and we look forward to seeing them this weekend in Tallahassee. As far as our team, today was our 6th practice, as our first day in full pads. We're off to a really good start. I told our players this morning, it's a completely different feeling showing up every day with this team. These guys are eager. We got meetings starting 7 o'clock in the morning. The guys are up there, notepads ready. There's just no drama. I think when you take over a problem or take over a program, there is problems early on, and your first year, even COVID aside last year, you got issues that you're dealing with that maybe conflict with the new culture that you want to really install in the program. And right now, I mean, we're able to coach. We're able to get to the football part that maybe in the first year we were not able to do as much. So really proud of the way the guys have been working. It's been hot out there, which you know you're going to get here in the Florida heat. The guys have really done a good job of pushing through. Like I said, today is the first day in full pads. We'll be in full pads again tomorrow, and then we'll be in helmets Thursday, and then we have our first scrimmage on Friday. We were supposed to scrimmage on Saturday, but due to Coach Bowden's services on Saturday morning, we're going to scrimmage on Friday instead, and the coaches will stay here and do some meetings and walk through with the guys on Saturday. So with that, I'll open it up for any questions.
Coach, when you look at all three phases of the game, are you where you expected to be right now?
Yeah, that's I think as unusual as the last 18 months are, I'm not sure I knew exactly what to expect. I think that's, and to be honest, that's not just here. I mean, I think that's always about fall camp, right? I mean, literally the last time we were on the field with them was back in April. There's been a lot that's gone on, all their workouts and stuff in the summer. So as a coach, I mean, that's why fall camp is so much fun, because you get out there and you get to kind of see it all develop. You know, I've told our players, where we are right now, are we ready to go play? Absolutely not. You know, but we've got, 3 weeks from Thursday before we kick it off. But I'm definitely pleased with where we are after 6 days. Now, we still got, a week and a half of fall camp to go, so there's still a lot of work to do. But I didn't really go in with any preconceived notions of where we would be at this point in fall camp. I think each year's different, each team's different. I just think, overall, I would say just the attitude, mindset, focus, leadership is probably a little bit further ahead than maybe where I thought we would be this early in camp. So that's really a tribute to our players. It's not something that's just fake and they're just kind of, smiling to your face. I mean, these guys are serious about it. They understand we have a lot of work to do, and they really bought in, and it really encourages me and our staff to show up every day and to do everything we can to help them.
How concerned are you about the defense, and particularly the defensive line?
Yeah, I think I'm always going to be concerned about them until you, I've said this before. There's about 6 teams in the country that are happy with their defensive line. Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State, Clemson, Notre Dame. That's the hardest position to get. I mean, it's always a struggle. It's always a battle. You're always taking linebackers and growing them into defensive ends. You're taking defensive ends and growing them into defensive tackles. That's just the hardest position to go. But I would say this, these guys, that group has definitely improved, especially just from a mentality standpoint and work ethic standpoint. I mean, these guys, they get challenged every day. I mean, that's really, fall camp's the hardest on the OL and DL. I mean, that's where it's getting hot out there. There's a lot of banging going on. But, our guys have responded. But we're not anywhere close to where I hope we are in the future at that position.
Do you think you're going to have enough depth now, and given the way offenses are played today, particularly in the defensive line, you can't just get started. Will you have enough good people to rotate in and out?
Yeah, that's the hope. And we base out of a 3-man front, so it's easier to have 6 ready than it is to have 8 ready. Maybe when you're a little shorter on depth, we do play some 4-man front. But yes, I feel better about our depth, but that's still a big position that we got to continue to develop. There's a couple of guys in that room. Tramel Logan is a guy that's very talented, that brings a lot from a twitch and speed standpoint, which is what we really are looking for and need for pass rush. And he's a guy, again, last year was just kind of, not quite as disciplined and accountable as we needed on the field and off the field. And he's had probably one of the best starts that, to a season, spring or fall, since he's been here. So we're really pleased with him. He's done a good job, and he's a guy that really could help us improve in some of those areas.
Do you think you'll be physical enough out there?
I don't think I'll ever believe that we're physical enough at that position. I think. Yes, that's definitely a focus of this fall camp, as both sides, offense and defensive line. Today was short yardage, and it was pretty even back and forth. The offense won one series, and the defense won one series. But I definitely feel like we're going to be improved. I mean, ultimately, that's what this whole season's about. Are we ready to go out, and is this going to be our best team that we've ever had? You know, who knows? What I'm looking for, you know, I'm not, right now, we're not seeking perfection, we're seeking progress. I mean, that's really where we are as a program, is we've got to see progress in the right direction. I mean, you're not just going to flip your, you know, snap your fingers and it's just going to look completely different. You know, but we need to see progress and see movement in the right direction. And I have seen progress so far through the off season, and so far through 6 days of fall camp with that defensive line group, and that encourages me.
Staying along the defensive line, Kevin Kegler had a really good 2018, but injuries in 19 and 20, you know, kind of limited him. How's he doing now? Is he back to 100%?
He's not. He's still battling some injuries, and he is trying to push through, but he's not back to 100% yet. He hasn't been 100% since I've been here, so I've heard some really good things about him in the past, and hoping he can get completely healthy, because he definitely could help us.
And when you look at the 4 defensive tackles, Kegler, Pinckney, Green, and Mangum, that stayed for that extra year, just when you're in a 3-man set, you don't necessarily get to use them by design. What's your plans to kind of make sure those guys get time?
Yeah, and we'll use both of them because of our need at that position. They're not all 4 playing just the nose guard. A couple of those guys will play tackle because of the need that we have. And it's really like a lot of positions. Sometimes the body type might not be exactly how you would draw it up if you were just, you know, drawing up your best lineup to go, you know, kind of like on Madden or something, you're building your team. But really what it is who are the best 3 guys to be out there? And that's really what it gets into. And those guys that you mentioned, you know, they're going to need to get on the field. And so they cross-train and play some different positions. But yeah, I'm really pleased, obviously, that all those guys chose to come back, and that's part of the stuff that gives me encouragement for this season, is getting those guys back and being able to shore up some of the stuff up the middle.
Coach, when you talk about the men that work for Coach Bowden, the one thing that resonates is he let us coach. He didn't just sit and micromanage. Does that have an effect on what you do as a head coach?
Yeah, I think I definitely watched Coach Bowden. He did a great job, and you know, I feel very fortunate. Not only did I watch Coach Bobby Bowden, I played for Tommy Bowden, and then I coached under Coach Sweeney for 12 years. And Coach Sweeney's has a lot of the same qualities and traits. He's kind of a modern day Bobby Bowden, if you will, in a lot of ways. But really, you know, what I observed from watching Coach Bowden is he knew everything that was going on. He could coach all the positions. He would take his notes at practice, and then he would go in staff meetings and he would give the feedback to the coaches on things that he thought they could do to improve their players. And then he'd let them go in and teach it and let them go in and coach it. He wouldn't come out there and practice and move the coaches out of the way and try to take over. And I think there's a lot to that. If you're going to hire coaches to do a job, you know, yes, you're going to coach your coaches and give them instruction, but you need to allow them to coach and develop their rapport with their players. And yeah, I mean, there's a ton of qualities. And again, it's kind of, for me, I kind of got it both ways. I got it from watching Coach Bowden for so many years, and then playing for his son, and then, you know, my dad, who learned pretty much everything in coaching from Coach Bowden. I've watched him every day of my life. So there's a lot of influences, probably things that I don't even recognize. You know, I was actually watching a video on Sunday with my dad, a 1986, some year-long show they put together of Coach Bowden, and it was kind of fun going back and watching. Literally, the cards that he was holding in practice were these exact same cards in 1986. I was like, all right, so that's where we got these from, right? And they're still here, how many ever years later? So I'm sure there's plenty of things. Whenever we talk about our you know, hideaway manual and book, there's a lot of stuff in that hideaway manual that comes back from Coach Bowden many years ago.
What do you remember about being a 8-year-old Jeff Scott
Yeah.
around FSU?
Yeah, so the school that I went to was called, elementary school was called Florida High. It was a K through 12, and it's now moved locations. But at the time when I was going to school there, it literally was 200 yards behind the Florida State practice field. So from second grade on, I mean, I'd literally be standing right next to the door when the bell would ring. I wouldn't go get in the car with my mom like, you know, most kids do. I'd take off running across the PE fields, and I'd get to the practice fields, and then that's when they were starting practice. So I'd just be, I mean, literally from the second grade on, that's really what I did every day they had practice. And then as soon as practice was over, I'd go in the locker room, hanging out, and I'd go sit in the coaches' meetings, and then I'd go home with my dad at whatever, 8 or 9 o'clock. And that was just kind of my life and what I knew. But probably some of the memories I have that I think about a lot are in the locker room. You know, I would always try to get in a player's locker, and I think I told you all this story maybe, but actually whenever I made the decision that I wanted to be a college coach, I was 11 years old. I think it was November 1991, and it was Florida State versus Miami, number 1 versus number 2, and I think Florida State lost either wide right, I believe, that day. But I remember I was sitting in Charlie Ward's locker. Charlie was just maybe a freshman at the time. He wasn't, I don't think he's quite playing yet. I'm sitting in his locker with the old metal lockers, my back up against it, you know, just kind of shoved up in there. And Charlie's sitting on a stool right in front. And then Coach Bowden walks in. You could hear, you know, the crowd and all that stuff. And just watching Coach Bowden talk to the players before the game. And just, you know, a lot of times, I think what I remember, of course, that's been so long ago, but it was something to the point of, hey man, relax. I know it's a big game, exciting game, all this stuff. But I want you guys to know there's nothing you can do in this game, good or bad, that's going to make me love you any more or less than I do today. Just know that. And let's go out here and have some fun. And I mean, literally just kind of watching him interact with the players and watching the players, the respect they had for him. Like even at 11 years old, I was like, that's awesome. That's what I want to do. And then one last story that I got to share that's pretty funny. So all the coaches' kids, whenever you turned 7 years old, you could be on the sidelines. And we had a lot of coaches' kids at that time. And so we were playing an opponent, and it was one of these 70-3 type deals. So in the second half, me and about 4 or 5 of the other coaches' kids, we snuck around the sideline to the, you know, because the game's, you know, out of hand, fourth quarter. We snuck around the sideline to the other team's sideline, and we tackled their mascot. And like all the fans, you know, are cheering, and we're kind of like, you know, beating up the mascot, and they're cheering. And we just thought that was a lot of fun. So the next Wednesday, 4 days later, you always had Wednesday night was family night meals. So the coaches, the families come up there and have dinner in the dining hall right there with all the players and all the coaches. And so we'd always do that. We were sitting there, and across the loudspeaker, I think it was Miss Sue Hall, who was Coach Bowden's secretary. She came on and said, would all the coaches' kids that were on the sideline this past Saturday please come up to Coach Bowden's office right now? And all the players were kind of like, ooh, you know, we all get up, you know, and kind of looking at our parents like we don't know. We get up there, and Coach Bowden's sitting at his desk and turns around. And he's like, all right, here's the deal, you know, and he said, if y'all gonna be on the sidelines, y'all gotta behave. You know, we can't have y'all beating up the mascot. I got all these people writing letters and all this stuff, and you know, y'all can be down there and have fun, but y'all don't need to be beating up the mascot. Y'all understand? We're scared to death, you know, right? We're about to cry, you know, in there, and he's like, all right, well, y'all are good, you know. But just that was just a really funny memory that we had. But I mean, he was awesome. I mean, you know, he'd go out of his way to speak to anybody that walked through the halls or was around him.